The fracture point for the region began with the 1905 partition of Bengal. Lord Curzon framed the partition as an administrative measure, though it functioned as a calculated attempt by the British to shatter Hindu-Muslim unity and stall the nationalist movement centered in Calcutta. The immediate backlash was the Swadeshi movement, a campaign of civil resistance built on boycotting and burning foreign goods. The writer and philosopher Rabindranath Tagore initially supported this boycott, but as the movement relied increasingly on mob coercion and communal pressure, his sympathy turned to alarm. Tagore channeled his critique of this political fanaticism into a domestic chamber drama, using the collapse of a single household to examine the ethics of the nation. Published in 1916, The Home and the World, or Ghare Baire, presents nationalism as a series of competing, subjective narrations rather than a self-evident truth. Understanding how this argument works requires looking at how it survives translation from Tagore's 1916 text to Satyajit Ray's 1984 cinematic adaptation. Director Satyajit Ray approached the material with the historical hindsight of a post-independence, partitioned India, a context where Tagore's warnings about communal bloodshed had already been realized. This creates a central analytical tension. Tagore built his argument out of internal thoughts and private confessions. The challenge is moving those internal states into a purely visual medium. Form is an active part of the message. Moving from a literary confession to an objective camera alters the mechanics of the ideological argument. In the novel, Tagore abandons the authoritative narrator. He constructs a trivocal structure, giving the husband Nikhil, the wife Bimala, and the revolutionary Sandip alternating first-person chapters. Because no single voice is fully trustworthy, the reader must weigh three self-interested, incompatible vantage points. Sandip's voice is performative and rhetorically inflated. I shall simply make Bimala one with my country. His internal monologue exposes the demagogue's habit of believing his own propaganda, revealing how he aestheticizes his own selfishness as national duty. Contrast this with Nikhil's chapters. His internal voice is meditative and almost essayistic. Only the weak dare not be just. He practices an ethical humanism, where strength lies in refusing to coerce others. To Nikhil, justice is the harder path, requiring a refusal to use the movement as a tool for personal or political domination. By colliding these voices, Tagore suggests that political truth is often a construction of persuasive language, rather than an objective fact. The third voice belongs to Bimala. Her chapters are retrospective and shadowed by the guilt of her later disillusionment. She traces her own transformation from a devoted wife into the queen bee of a radical movement, a title that masks her loss of autonomy. The first-person format pulls the reader into her internal rationalizations as she justifies stealing from her household to fund Sandip's cause. This creates a feeling of complicity. By the time Bimala realizes she has been manipulated, the reader has already spent chapters participating in her self-deception. Through this intimacy, the reader experiences how ideological fervor can slowly erode individual ethics. Satyajit Ray's film adaptation must solve a fundamental problem of the medium. The camera is inherently an external witness. It cannot occupy three minds simultaneously. The direct access to interior thought is lost. Ray's solution is to replace internal confession with physical observation and staging. Nikhil's philosophical doubts become a painful physical discipline. His restraint is shown through long silences and downward glances, making his refusal to act feel like a deliberate, difficult choice. Sandip's dangerous rhetoric translates into magnetism. Ray uses actual musical performance, patriotic songs sung to Bimala, to show the seductive power of his presence. Bimala's internal guilt is externalized through posture and gesture. Ray tracks her arc through the hesitation in her walk and the way her expression shifts when she is alone. Ray preserves the story's ambiguity through what the camera chooses to withhold, rather than what the characters choose to say. The title refers to a physical threshold between the Ghare, the home, and the Baire, the world. The inner quarters represent tradition, while the outer rooms represent the modern world of politics. Crossing this boundary marks Bimala's entry into the struggle and Sandip's control. Ray literalizes this by repeatedly framing Bimala trapped within doorways and behind half-open screens, visually marking her transition from private wife to public actor. Ray's lighting design contrasts the warm and closed safety of the domestic interior against the stark, exposed daylight of the political world outside. Costume becomes a narrative track. As Sandip equates Bimala with the goddess Shakti to legitimize his movement, Ray dresses her in bolder, iconographic silks that reflect her new role as a national symbol. The burning of foreign cloth, a central image of the boycott, is visually tied to the destruction of Bimala's own domestic space. By deifying Bimala as a symbol of Mother India, the movement captures her autonomy for a male ideological project, replacing domestic seclusion with a pedestal. Ray translates a psychological argument into an inescapable spatial geometry. Reading the text and watching the film produce distinct emotional experiences. The novel generates unease through complicity, forcing the reader to participate in the character's self-justifications. The film creates unease through a distanced, appraising gaze, making the tragedy of the divided household feel inevitable. Both Tagore and Ray refuse the audience a triumphant resolution, ending instead on the consequences of communal violence. The goal of the work remains to dismantle the idea that any single voice or symbol can monopolize the truth of a nation. The mechanics of political fervor shown in 1905 still find echoes in modern movements. There is a permanent danger in collapsing complex ethical realities into a single seductive slogan. Substituting passion for critical thought threatens the goal of true liberation. In any political awakening, ethical means must matter exactly as much as patriotic ends. Tagore's story demands that we view all political rhetoric and our own convictions with structural suspicion.